Every Thursday, my webinar is dedicated to your questions, your property investment questions, as we've now come away from the lockdown theme, and we're more about into helping you to accelerate your success in property. Tonight's webinar, I'm answering lots of people's different questions on property. If you want to listen to their questions and listen to their answers, please feel free. There's some great questions coming up, I'm pretty sure. There always is, and I answer them as best I can. Hope you enjoyed tonight's webinar. As every Thursday, I'm going to be doing a question and answer session on property in general. We're coming more and more away from the lockdown rescue, so we've renamed our daily webinar the Daily Property Investor and Developer Support Webinar, where I interview different people all the time to help you on your property journeys, giving you golden nuggets every day that you can take and make money from. And today, Thursday, is always going to be my question and answer day, where I help you move things over the line. I don't do the deal analysis because I keep that just for my clients, and you know, that I do with my clients. However, general questions and generalisation is no problem at all. So please feel free, ask away, type your questions in the question box. Last week there were probably about 60 or 70 questions that we hadn't got around to answering just because of the sheer volume of them. So as normal, it's going to be first come, first served. So please feel free, type in your questions and I will come and start answering them. I just need to go to my attendee list, and well, right now we are waiting for the first question. And we have the first question in from Jeff. Let's see if we can go to that question. Okay. Right. Jeff says, if I change my lettings agent, will the new one have to reissue ASTs, licenses, etc. for my tenants? Do you know, Jeff, I'm not 100% sure on that. My letting agency that I set up to run all my properties, I haven't had much to do with for the last couple of years. I do believe that you can pass on the ASTs. My new person who's taken over from my portfolio won't be issuing any new ASTs. Although the HMO stuff, I'm still waiting for the final answers. So from the tenancy side of stuff, very, very good place for information, for this detailed information, is one of the landlord associations. Now, I'd certainly recommend that you join either, one of the landlord associations, because they also give you insurance for claims and things that you might have, or any challenges that you have that you need legals for. So I don't think it's dear, it's like 30-40 quid a month. So I really think it's a good idea to join some sort of landlord association, and they are very, very good at technical questions on running tenants, etc., etc. So Mick says, I'm thinking of buying a commercial property, 150k plus VAT. I'm not VAT registered. Can I get the VAT back? I don't actually think you can, Mick, on a property, but again, I'm not 100% sure on that. Well, it's a great start. I mean, 2 questions and 2 things I'm not sure. What I do know is that if you go onto the government website and you have a look there, they will give you the answer. Also, if you dropped me that question on an email, I will introduce you to my accountant who would give you exactly the right answer. Okay, so Solar says, could I explain how you would financially engineer a property with the following details? End value 300, refurb 12 to 15 grand, purchase price 239. Right. Let me just have two thoughts on this. 240, 255, 300 times 7154. Right. Okay, so look, the most you can borrow against this property, and let's start off with the end in mind. On a £300,000 property at 75% loan to value is 225. Although you could potentially get an 80%. So let's have a look at 80% on a 300 grand times 80% is 240. You can borrow, okay? So if you were to exchange contracts with the vendor at 300, okay, and you put some sort of charge on the property for building works. So the difference between 239 and 300 is 61 grand. So you put a charge for building works on the property of 61 grand. You exchange contracts, you did the work, you then went to complete. They come along, they see the property with the work done, value it at 300, you buy it at 300. The building company, your company, whatever you want to call them, have a charge on the property for 61, you get 61 grand cash back. If you get 61 grand cash back, you offer 300, 61 is 240. So you're going to leave a bit into that deal. But only a very little bit. So yeah, 75% of. If you borrow 240, you're literally going to leave 13 to 16 grand in it plus the stamp. What can I ask you, Solar? What the let me just have a look for purchase price what the rent profit is going to be every month on this property. So if you can give me the rent profit, because you're going to be into this for 20 grand, so if the rent profit is 20 grand a year, then it's probably worth doing, but if it's not, then I'd be questioning why you would want to do it. I mean, it's a better than average deal, but you'll be still leaving 20 grand in it, so you'll still be swapping cash for cash flow, which is what I don't like doing at all. Who's Arsenal playing tonight, Gary?
Southampton.
Okay, Carmelo says, hat-trick, will Arsenal win or lose tonight? Do you know what, Carmelo? Crystal ball, very cloudy. I've always supported Tottenham. Gary, who I've known since we were 8, supported Arsenal.
You're not confident.
He's not confident. Here's my prediction. I think Southampton will win 2-1. There we go. No, actually, I don't think. I'd wish that was the score. There we go. Because I do like winding Gary out. But there we go. Listen, let me stick to property, please, not football predictions. Actually, Gary got it right the other night when who was it? Scored 5.
Man City, wasn't it?
When Man City scored 5, Gary was half time 3-all. I went for 7, Gary went for 5, and Gary was right. So there we go. I'm going to stick to property stuff. David says, when you're developing a hotel with planning approval for residential property from Brick, at what stage can you apply for a buy-to-let mortgage at the best rate for 13 apartments? Give me a bit more information, David. Let me just jump on and let's speak to you direct if we can. Right, I've just unmuted you, David. If you could jump on and unmute yourself.
Okay.
Hi, David. You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear. So to actually turn it into 13 apartments, are you actually talking about splitting title and all that stuff? Or
Yes, I will be doing. I'm halfway through at the moment.
Oh, okay, all right. So, just incidentally, are we somewhere around about what was it? It was a hotel, and you've actually turned it into 13 apartments in total that are all going to be, and they're all going to be on set.
It was a hotel that was unperforming. It's like 4 different buildings together on the promenade. It's in Blackpool.
Okay.
And it wasn't doing anything. So I decided to apply for planning permission. It was one of the areas in Blackpool that isn't part of the holiday zone, fortunately. So we were able to turn it into 13 residential apartments.
So if they're all on, or going to be on their own individual titles,
Yes.
i.e. leaseholds on the building, what's the value of each one of them, just as a matter of interest?
About 120 to 130 per apartment. The 3-bedded, 2-bedded, and the ground floor 2 1-bedded, but they're quite attractive. It averages about maybe 125 per apartment.
And can I ask what you paid for the hotel?
Well, we've had the hotel for some time now. We paid in total. We paid 300 for part of the hotel, 180, so about 500,000.
Okay, so it's a business that you had before that you decided to develop yourself, yeah?
The business failed. We leased it, and the people that we leased it to walked away.
Right. Okay. So basically, it's around 38k per apartment if you divide it out by the 13.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's it costing you? Are you nearer the 30 grand or nearer the 50 grand an apartment for the conversion?
At the moment, we spent about 160 to 200, and we borrowed another 100. Potentially, I would hope to only borrow another 50 to 100 after that. So that's where we're up to.
So 30 grand.
I'm project managing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 30 grand times 13, that comes to about 400 grand. Is that about where you're going to be?
300. I was hoping for.
Okay. So.
But that's only to basically without all the insides. You have to make it into without the settees, televisions, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So to get the hotel. Okay. So you're looking more at spending 300 divided by 30.
Yeah.
So your budget's around 25 grand per room.
Yeah.
Okay, so 28 plus 38, 50, sorry, 25 plus 38, 30, 40, 58, 63 grand plus your money cost. You're keeping them, are you, and refinancing at the end?
It's with different stages. At the beginning, I thought, let's just sell them, and now I'm thinking the property value is going to go low, so keep them for 2 years at least, and maybe use them as service departments because they're in the most prime areas of Blackpool, or rent them out. £650 per month minimum. It's either way.
Okay.
It's
look,
it's very beneficial.
If you're splitting the title into 13 separate leaseholds, and they do value at 120 each, that means you can borrow 90 grand an apartment. Okay, and if your cost is
that's good.
your cost is 67 grand an apartment plus costs and stuff. So you're going to come out of it probably somewhere break even-ish, but so that the rent income is free, so it hasn't cost you anything. Yeah. So you've got two choices. You're either what are they? 1 beds, 2 beds?
3 bed, 2 bed. There's 6 3 bed, 5 2 bed, and 2 1 bed.
So what are they, kind of 450, 550 rents?
No, 650. They've all got sea views and big apartments.
Yeah, so sea views makes a big difference. You know, it can make 30% difference on them, which is why something in that area is working, because normally that sort of area is more like 80 grand a flat rather than 120, but the sea view will make that difference. So
they'd be like brand new, because we've taken it back to brick, we've just taken everything out, and everything is going to be new. Yeah.
So really, you're talking about 13 times 13. You could either walk away with 300 odd grand profit if you decide to sell them, or you've got rent income from something that hasn't cost you anything. What would I prefer to do? Well, because there's no capital appreciation so much in that area, I'd probably, if I could, walk away with the 300 grand and do something else with that. Back in my mind, I'm totally remembering all the time that on the rich list, the developers are the ones that are on there, not the investors. Although it's nice to have 13 times 500, so you're going to be on 5-6 grand a month profit from the block.
Yeah.
Would I rather have that? You've got to ask yourself, do I want 5 grand a month profit forever?
Yeah.
Or do I want 300 grand in my bank that I can do whatever with? Now, if you can turn that 300 grand into $1 million, it looks like Arsenal's just scored by the look of my cameraman.
My problem is I'm 66, surely, so time is important.
Yeah.
But, I know you're saying that things can turn around in 12 months, 18 months, but that is an issue.
Yeah, but 5 grand a month isn't to be sniffed at every month for something that's cost you nothing.
Yeah.
And 300 grand isn't to be sniffed at. Obviously, you've got tax to pay if you get rid of it. So.
Yeah. Well, so where would I to get a mortgage on them? A buy-to-let mortgage. When is the time to do it? Because at the moment, I can't say to a bank, here's a hotel that's in brick.
Yeah,
give me a mortgage, please.
Of course.
When is the time?
I mean, that's the $10 million question. If you split the title when you've completed, you create a freehold and you split it into 13 titles, then you finance each individual title,
Yeah, but that would mean then wait until completion. So are you saying that we need to wait till completion?
The only thing you can do at the moment is take out development finance. There are banks.
We've taken out some of that.
There are banks.
Not cheap.
No, definitely not. There are banks that will fund a multi-flat under one title unit, but they're dearer.
Yeah.
And you're far better off taking out 13 individual mortgages.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at the moment, we're paying 1.6 per month.
Yeah. So that's development finance for you. So you need to get it done as quickly as possible and refinanced as quickly as possible. Yeah. So we need to refinance. So when do you suggest we refinance? Can we do it in 2 stages, do you think? Or do we have to wait for completion and then do it? Look, it's about how you've got to pay back the money that you owe, okay? And I'm sure normally with development finance, if you, as you completed units, put a freehold across it, and created 13 different leaseholds, you could probably pay the development finance down per each time you raise the money on each one. So if you finish one unit, you raise the money against that, pay them back.
Right, yeah.
And just stage it. But that's
We're going to do it in 3 stages, so that makes more sense, yeah.
But that's down to a negotiation with the lender normally when they lend to you. But they are normally quite. I had a challenge when I bought a property in London and split it into 6 individual rooms, and I actually split it into not into 6 titles, but I created 6 leasehold rooms that were all HMO rooms, and my development or the bridging company actually allowed me to pay them back each time I sold a room. I was selling the rooms for 180 grand a room. For 4 of them and 150 for 2 of them. So we pulled about 300 grand profit out of it, but the other one I did 2 at once and the other one totally fucked up. So that was a learning curve.
So that makes more sense. So if because the first stage, once we develop the first stage, we then, because we've been told by planning that everything has to be completed before we actually sell the properties,
but
before they move in. So
they
don't have to move in, we're going to get refinanced, do they?
No,
so
and
that makes more sense.
And you don't have to sell them. So literally, one at a time, as you complete them, you refinance them.
Oh, right, Right, thanks, Glenn.
Right.
That's sort of gives us a bit of reassurance because, we're at a stage where I'm not quite sure what to do. So, not sure. I still might keep them and refinance them and rent them out. Because the Blackpool market is going to be all year now because they've extended the illumination season until January. So this year, but maybe there's a possibility they'll keep that going if it's successful.
Look, you've just got to write down a spreadsheet for one and a spreadsheet for the other. And the bottom line is, if you do A, how much profit are you going to make? If you do B, how much profit you're going to make? And you base your decision on the numbers. If they downvalue to 110, then that's a totally different equation. And if you sold them off and you made 30 grand a unit after all your costs, what could you do with 300 grand? Because at the end of the day, how many months is it? Assuming you're going to make 5 grand a month out of it, let's just assume. And you could sell it with 300 grand profit. We'll divide that by 5,000, and it's going to take you 60 months.
5 years.
To get to the same space as you are, and then you've got to ask yourself, okay, in 5 years, how much could I make with 300 grand? Well, a lot more. If
I was active and not 66.
But it's again, what you want to do with it, who you want to give it to.
Of course it is.
All that type of stuff. But once you're armed with the information, then you can make a decision.
No, I'm really grateful for the advice you've given us.
No problem.
I've enjoyed your, the webinars. It's good. Very good.
No problem. And somebody's just pointed out that the profit's probably about 1,400 quid a month, because what I've done is just the profit, the total rent per month, not the profit per month on the rent.
Well, I've worked out over a year, it's going to be touching the 100,000 in the year for the rent for 13 apartments, and we've got obviously costs on that. So but I mean, like you say, it's ratios and figures. You need to put them in spreadsheets and work them out. Whatever's best.
So good luck. Let me know what you decide.
Okay, Glenn, thank you very much.
All right, cheers then.
Cheers now. Bye.
Okay, so I've got quite a lot of comments coming in rather than questions about Arsenal and all that type of stuff. Stop it, everyone. This is a property thing. It's not about football. One comment was anybody but bloody Arsenal, but there we go. Right. Cynthia says, what planning use class would I be looking to get an HMO property being used for SA short-let basis at the moment. It's a normal 5-bedroom residential house being let to one family in Enfield. Okay, so the uses class is different as a single let to an HMO, and when you're talking about serviced accommodation, really that doesn't come under HMO stuff, it actually comes under guest houses. So whatever the planning class is for them, you've got to be very careful that when you are doing serviced accommodation, that the use class is right, because when you have an HMO, it's not the right use class for an HMO. Therefore, you could leave it as a property if you could change it to serviced accommodation. The only problem is funding on a guest house type hotel is not that easy to get from a bank unless you're hands-on managing it. So, Gary, you didn't tell me, someone's just said the Arsenal goal was disallowed.
Yeah. I might be a second one.
Oh, okay.
I'm a bit behind.
He missed that one. Okay. So what plan and use would I be looking for? So you've got to understand, Cynthia, that HMO use is totally different to serviced accommodation. And I've really not looked into it that deeply because I'm not, and it's not something I do. So again, join some sort of landlord association, and they are brilliant at, you know, all this type of definition stuff. So there we go. Oh no, Paul said the Arsenal was disallowed. Would you believe it? They just scored again. This time it was allowed.
This is going to come easy as well.
Okay. All right. We have only actually got a few more questions asked. So if you do have a question, please type it out. If you don't get your question in the next few minutes, there's a good chance I'm going to be able to answer it for you. So, Gurnham said, is there any risk involved in buying a freehold property from a trust? I don't know, Gurnham, that's really a question for your solicitors to inform you. You know, if is there any chance of it ever being overturned? Is there any covenants in place? It really is a job for your solicitors to check out when you're buying something. So there we go. Armin said, amazing webinar, so much appreciation. Thanks, Armin. It keeps my ego going. But I do enjoy doing these, and I'd like to think that it's helping everyone on their property journeys. As we've come away from the lockdown stuff, that we will mention it a few times. Now I'm going to be interviewing people, experts in different fields, and also my Millionaire clients, which we're now up to 85. Discovered my 85th Millionaire client when I was running my Zoom course at the weekend. And I asked a question, who on here wants to become a millionaire? And someone didn't put their hand up, and I said, why? And he said, because he already is, which I suppose is a good answer. Armin said, I have lots of money seeking to buy, invest, grow. It's a matter of working out the right strategy for you. I mean, depending on where you are, how much cash you do have, how much time you want to put in it, what your psychology is, whether you prefer high risk, lower risk, mixture, all of that. I know when I first started, I was lucky enough to start off with 120 grand, and I was able to buy a portfolio that ended up with 30 million of equity in it within a few years. I bought 52 properties in 48 weeks using recycling 120 grand. Obviously, if you had a lot more than that, you can do different strategies. I just think that if you are using the creative strategies that we teach, your whatever sum it is will go so much further than if you stick to traditional methods. Again, more feedback from Fitzroy saying last night's bounce back webinar was great. Thanks, Fitzroy. It's good to know that we're helping you. Carmelo says, property and football, how many houses does Robbie Fowler have? Carmelo, I don't know actually. What I do know is at one time, if you went to Liverpool and sat in the ground, they would sing a song to the tune of Yellow Submarine that was "We All Live in a Robbie Fowler House." It was actually buying several a week in conjunction with one of the other Liverpool players. I can't remember which one it was, but they were spending all of their money buying 10, 15 grand a time Liverpool 2 up, 2 down type properties. So it was quite a few hundred that he bought over a period of time. So getting lots of comments back from that, which I'll get to in a minute. Eric says your advice on this, please. Asking price 275, 2-bed and need total refurb. The idea is to build and extend to make 3-bed increase the kitchen side. 3-bed sold for 285. Thank you. Right. So I'm going to jump on and let's go to Eric and let's ask Eric the questions. I can find we've got a lot of people on here tonight. Right, is that right, Eric? Yes. Okay, Eric, I've unmuted you. Good evening, Eric. If you can unmute yourself, I can look through the numbers on your property. There's a few other questions I need to ask you if I could. Good evening.
Good evening, Glenn.
Hi. Okay, you're welcome. Asking price of 275, yeah?
Yes, please.
Right, the end price you reckon is 385, yeah?
Yes, so that was 2007.
2017. Yeah, okay. What you need to do is to check the square footage of it, yeah?
Yes.
So you can go on to Rightmove Plus and look at it historically if you are doing it with an estate agent, which you could normally do if you're working on buying a property from them, okay? So also sometimes Home Track, if you subscribe to them for 40 quid, you'll get normally the square footage of the properties when they're on there, okay? To me, it doesn't look like there's enough margin in it to do anything. It is the type of thing that would work as a delayed completion. What's your end goal with it? To sell it and make a profit, or to keep it and rent it?
To sell it, please.
Okay. All right, well, look, my very quick gut feeling is there's not going to be much margin in it to do that, okay? Asking price 275, needing a total refurb. So what is a refurb going to cost? You're talking about building an extension. So if you're talking turn it into 3-bed, you're talking about a 2-story extension. So what are we talking about? 300 square foot per story to 500 square foot per story?
Yes, about yes.
So if we said 400, so if we extend it by 800, yeah, square foot,
Yes.
that means it's going to be at least 80 grand for the extension shell. And what are you going to allow for the refurb? 50?
Yes, about 50, 40, 50.
Alright, it's probably going to be nearer the 50 if you're extending it as a shell. So that means that 80 grand for the extension added to 50 grand for the refurb, 275, so that's 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 22, 4. That comes to 400 grand already, and your buy-sell cost on that would be another 20%, so 80 grand. So it's going to owe you 480 and be worth 385. Okay?
I was looking to do a permitted development, it's a single.
Yeah. If you're in, like you said, to go from 2 to 3 beds, so that means 2-story, yeah.
Okay.
So that's a planning application. But even if you didn't do that, what's the selling price per square foot in the area? What area is it?
It's London.
So what area?
No, Dagenham.
Dagenham. Okay. So Dagenham, what are we talking? 350 per square foot? 400? Is it 350, 400 grand per property? For a 3-bed, I don't know, it might be a little bit high. What are we talking about a normal 3-bed semi selling for? 300?
350.
350?
Yeah, 350.
It's gone up.
Alright, well the problem is for doing that project, I don't think it's in a dear enough area. So if you're building a 500 square foot extension and you're only adding the selling price is £300, 350 square foot, compared to in the dearer area where it's 500, £1,000 a square foot, it's not giving you enough lift. All right. So it's a definite no for me, that one for you. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, no problem at all. Palmetto said, thanks for the continued great content. Any updates on York Man coming back with a sales webinar? He's actually run off his feet at the moment, and I will be chasing him again next week. He did say give him a few weeks. Dave Bird said, you say you're not into service accommodation. What would you say is your preferred property deal? David, my preferred deal is the type of thing that I'm doing with somebody where I'm exchanging contracts, paying them 28 grand to pay off their arrears, paying for their mortgage, paying for their rental, spending 400 grand on their property, turning it into 3 flats. They're getting 1 flat back. Current value of their property is 1.2 million. Their flat value will be about 1.2 million. I'm going to pay off their 300 grand mortgage. I'm going to cover the 400 grand cost. It's going to leave me 1 flat to sell at 1.2 and 1 to sell at 1 million, so that's 2.2. Take off the 800 grand cost and also giving the owners an extra 200 grand bonus, so it's a total win-win. Gives me around £1.2 million profit for a 400 grand upfront outlay. I like that. That's my favourite type of deals. I actually prefer developments where I don't have to buy things. I like building blocks of flats. I normally cover the deposits that I need and everything by JVing with people. And again, if I'm building a block of 9 flats, I'll JV with 9 people, get them to put in 60, and then they come out with somewhere around about 90 to 100 at the end. And I come out with somewhere around about 400 profit. So, and it doesn't cost me anything to do it. That's what I like doing. Having just come out of my divorce situation, and it's been pretty tight and private for me for the last few years because most of my properties were in my ex name. Big mistake. Never do that again. So it's going to take me a little while to turn everything around for me from a rental wise, because I've been awarded quite a lot of properties. It's going to take me a while to get exactly where I need to be. But in the meanwhile, if I can do one deal every couple of months that kicks out £1 million profit, then it's not going to be the end of the world, is it? Prakash says what the challenge is to converting a snooker club D2 into flats. That's a conversation for a planning consultant, Prakash. So you'd have to look into that and see totally. I've not had any experience of doing that, so I have got one client who loves to do a 2-tier thing. He can buy warehouses. He actually turns them into prayer houses, and once they're prayer houses, he can then turn them into flats above the prayer houses. So that's his, and he's made a lot of money doing that. But snooker clubs, D2, not sure whether D2 is the same as churches. Don't know. Carmelo said he's been at Liverpool, hearing them singing it. We all live in a Robbie Fowler house. There we go. Michael Jones says Fowler's got at least 1 left outside Cardiff. I'm pretty sure he did a development in Conway, right looking underneath Conway Castle. He did a big hotel development and marina development. I did try and find out whose development project it was, and all they told me was a footballers. and they wouldn't tell me exactly who. So 5-star hotel, one of the only ones in North Wales. Really nice place to stay. A Hussein, evening again. I don't know your first name, sorry. I'm building 3 houses. If I remortgage and let, will I come away with maybe 250? If I sell, so I'm building 3 houses. If I remortgage and let, I will come away with maybe 250. If I sell, I'll get 200. What would you do in this scenario? Sell or keep and use less cash for new deals? It depends where you are on your financial journey, and also when you can get away if you kept one of them with not paying quite so much tax, depending on how you apply things. I don't know unless I actually had an overview on your situation, and 2 spreadsheets. What will I come away with if I refinance and keep and not pay tax on? What will I come away with if I have to sell them and I pay tax? That is just that equation, simple as that. Do the maths and have the spreadsheets. Don't forget that by the time you finish, the chances are they are going to cost you a little bit more than what you always think. Right, Yogan says, difficult to recycle money at the moment as everything seems to be going over asking price. What to do? Yogan, I very soon will be marketing direct to vendors again. There's a lot of people there who aren't going to be aware that things are booming at the moment. It's a surprise to a lot of people that there's a mini boom going on. We picked it up about 8 weeks ago, and it was just against what everybody kept saying. And I remember writing on a forum and going, do you know what, all this doom and gloom stuff, I don't agree with that. And everybody said I was mad. But here we go. When you're on the coalface like we are, just imagine every night you're listening to lots of different experts and lots of different fields, and lots of property millionaires and successful investors all doing stuff. And when every night, night after night, estate agents, solicitors and everyone are telling you, and architects, that they're busier than ever, you've got to listen to it, because this is coalface stuff. We're right at the front of it. And the feedback you're getting from this is going to keep you on the cutting edge of what goes on out there. And when you're on the cutting edge, you can react accordingly. Fokin said, is the Cambridgeshire area worth considering for buying, selling, letting? Properties are normally more expensive, those mentioned in the strategies. Do you know what? Cambridgeshire is on the cusp of, it's kind of £350, £400 a square foot, maybe £500 a square foot as we're in the middle. From memory, last time I was looking, it's kind of too dear for some of my strategies and only just about dear enough for others. I'd be heading more into North London to do delayed completion stuff, or heading a bit more Peterborough way to do buy to let or flipping. Palmetto, okay. He's written an essay. As you're running down questions, can I run one previous question from you? I asked a question regarding an option last week. Land 500, but want to buy at 685 and use the difference as 25% deposit, as it was on the market for 685. You mentioned having someone have an option and then buying the option, and there's no tax implications on the option holder. Who would take the 185 difference? Can you confirm? Heard that correctly, it's done the same transaction, there's no tax. Yeah, look, if the 185 person is your nominee and you have the right legal agreement, and basically they have an option of 185, they have an option at 500 and sell it to you at 685, making £185 profit, but they then give you back the profit, they haven't made a profit. Okay, so it is more a question for an accountant. If you drop me an email, Palmetto, I'm happy to introduce you to my accountant and you can ask him that question. Vinu, how much home track costs? Last time I looked at home track, it was about 40 quid per postcode We used to have a deal with them and we used to do it en masse. I don't do that anymore because they changed over and started doing it totally different, so it didn't work anymore for us. Ron, I think you mentioned this last night. I've got a limited company, there's a deal to buy another limited company. They own a block of flats for 5.25 million. It's a bridging loan for 3.9 and refinance at full value. The block 7 million, 52.2. We'll last to repay the bridge and repay the lender and the equity. How would you structure it so we could get the vendor to fund the 25% equity? Limited company is a deal. Another limited company. Potentially vendor finance. It depends. I'd need to speak to you a little bit more about it, Ron. Potentially you can use vendor finance and let them to reinvest back into your company, but if they're actually willing to sell at a 75% discount, I would again have a company that takes the option at the lower price and sells it onto your company for the higher price, because you're buying it at the higher price, you're transacting at that price, you can double check the value's okay, and then the nominee company is going to get that amount back. You need the cash in the first place, but you can recycle it. So Michael said your favourite development is that the house becoming 3 flats. That's one of my ones at the moment, Michael, and the other one is a conversion into probably going to be 12 flats from a house I've got an option on at 1.1. Amin said your answer was perfect, i.e. what would you do? I just need to find deals. Yeah, I mean you just find deals and decide, but you know there's a right way of looking and what to look for. Most people search on Rightmove and go to estate agents for property deals. All you're doing is looking at retail deals. We want trade deals. I'd like to think that my clients do things totally different. So if we're looking for trade deals, it's a totally different way to go about things than if you're looking for retail deals from agents. So there's a lot more to making serious money in property than meets the eye. I've been doing this since 2004, and it never ceases to amaze me how we can be creative and do things. It's, for me, about finding people with a challenge and solving their challenge and making money out of their property challenge, not about buying properties at retail. Venu says, what is prior house rents? I'm not sure, Venu, what you meant. Maybe you misheard me or something. I don't know what is prior house. Trevor says, assuming you didn't have the financial restraints caused by your marital situation, what would be your preferred strategy? I like delayed completions and building stuff, Trevor, in London. That's what I like doing. That's where the money is. It's not hard to make £1 million a month once you know what you're doing. That may well be 6 projects, cashing out every 2 months across a year, and it's going to take 18 months to 2 years for the funnel to kick in. But making £1 million a month out of stuff like that is totally achievable if you really know what you're doing. I know £1 million a month probably sounds like a mad sum to some people, and to other people they probably wonder why I'm wasting my time. It's about where your comfort zones are, I suppose, and where and about what you can do and deal with at any one time within your own financial and psychological restraints. There is a hell of a lot of psychology in this stuff. Getting people out of their comfort zone has always been a great bit of challenge for me. So Michael Jones said, Ollerton Hall, 10,000 square 10,200 square foot, 3-storey building, looking solid from the outside, roof stand, etc. Is that too big a project? No, Michael, no, that's a lovely sized project, depending on what you want to do with it. Turn it into flats, 2-bed flats, 650, 850 square foot. Don't forget, 80 to 90% of the space will be rented. Rent will be GIA, gross internal area, and the balance of it is going to be for corridors. And so comfortably, that's got 10 800 square foot flats in it. It's all about, and if it's grade 2, oh my god, that's a whole different question. Why does Ollerton Hall sound like it's grade 2? I don't know. Cynthia said, what was the name of the company people who put in a 20% deal? I've sent Mark your email today, Cynthia, so you will be hearing from them pretty soon. Right, Venus says, I've seen a huge land in a town in the southwest in the middle of all residential dwelling. Not sure how to approach them and see if they consider scale sale. Approach who is the first question. Do we know who they are? What's the value? You need to know what the value is so you can go in and start negotiations. Obviously, it's a big difference in value with and without planning. Going in and trying to get planning for hundreds of units is very expensive. Getting outline planning isn't selling it on. So taking an option on it, getting planning would be great. If there's a lift, if they'll sell it cheap enough. Right now, Vino, that's a bit of an open-ended question, so it's a little bit like asking me to do an equation without knowing enough of the numbers. Palmetto said, I believe you sent me John's contact about an hour ago. Thank you, I'll drop in an email. There we go, good. Palmetto says, if you couldn't do delayed completion in London, where would you go? Palmetto, I'd go to London. Because why wouldn't I? You know, if London's a long way away, move. Go and rent somewhere and stay there during the week. Or go, 20 minutes away somewhere else and go there every week. Why wouldn't you move where the money is? Why would you do things where you don't make so much money somewhere else? Just because it's convenient. If you really want to be successful, you do what it takes. So, get your finger out and do it. All right, listen, we are running time again. Thanks very much. I've enjoyed your questions today. Jeet will be back again tomorrow night to answer your mortgage broker questions. Please, if you have anybody else you know who would be interested in listening to our daily webinars, please drop them an email with our link to the webinar login. That would be really cool. If you could help me like that, I'd appreciate it. Also, don't forget, I'm building up a resource on YouTube, www.youtube.com/Property Millionaire Academy, where 4 or 5 days behind we're putting up these webinars. So there's a big resource of stuff for you, and I'm also starting to put a lot of other stuff up there for you as well. Other than that, thanks very much. Have a great evening. Make sure you stay safe. Please don't get complacent. And I will personally be speaking to you again on Monday. Take care. Have a great weekend.